Hey guys, what's up? Darcy here at 6 Strings 9 Lives. Welcome to episode 32 of 6 with 6 Strings. It's time to have a little bit of fun. Once you know the premises of this video, you could play along at home if you're into these two bands, that is. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take a look at two bands that I've been personally listening to for 40 plus years now. You got to go way back to a big year for me was 1984. Two very important releases came out that year. And those were my first new releases from each one of these bands. That is Iron Maiden, Power Slave, and Judas Priest, Defenders of the Faith. So these are two bands that I've stuck with, through the ups and downs, and they both still mean a lot to me to this day. And both still around, touring, very relevant. You know what, I just read that Judas Priest, Invincible Shield has been their highest charting album since 1980s British Steel. Just remarkable. I am, very proud of that. And like I said, 1984, huge year for me personally. I think that would be the pivotal year. But what I thought I would do today is we're going to take a look at the year 2000 till today. Each band has only put out 6 studio albums, and remarkably enough, there hasn't been a year where they both put one out from 2000 till today. To put that into perspective with some other bands that I listen to, you got Overkill that's put out 10 studio albums since the year 2000. Saxon, same. They just released their 10th of the 2000s. Hellfire and Damnation. God, even Motorhead, which has been obviously not active since 2015, put out 8 studio albums. A couple of other ones would be Metallica, 4 studio albums in now, if you count 2024, obviously 25 years. And one that is a bit shocking is Anthrax. Only 3 studio albums in that period since the year 2000. So hopefully we turn that 3 into a 4. This year, fully expecting a new one from Anthrax. But what I thought I would do, we're going to put these head to head in chronological order. So we're going to start off with the year 2000 versus 2001 and so forth, so on. So if you are into these bands, let me know in the comments for sure what are some of your favorites. But, play along at home. We're going to do basically just 2 rounds. It's obviously going to end, we'll take the winners from round 1, and then we'll put those 3 up against each other and kind of see, where I stand. Obviously, where you stand might be a total different story. There might be albums on here that I say I would prefer over the other, and you may say I'm out to lunch. I might think you're out to lunch, but whatever. As long as we've had lunch, that's all that matters. So let's get started with the first one. And this is the big one, a huge album for me. A very, I guess we'll say a happy time to know that Bruce Dickinson and Adrian Smith were coming back into Iron Maiden. So here's 2000's Brave New World. Let's take that out of... And obviously, if you're watching this video, you know these albums. They're not... there's nothing here that I won't show you that you probably don't know. Maybe there's a couple that you're just, maybe even gave up a bit on and haven't listened to them forever. But yeah, fantastic album. And I'm going to tell you, or should I tell you that right now? I will tell you later. But here is Brave New World. And at the time, in 2001, Judas Priest's 14th studio album came out, and that is Demolition. First and only album on Atlantic Records. They were dropped after that for, I could say, a lot of obvious reasons. But this is the second to have Tim Ripper Owens on vocals. So if you go head to head on these two, it's not even close for me, for sure. Clear-cut winner is Brave New World. There's some killer tracks on here. I won't go over a lot of tracks and things like that, but demolition-wise, it is I can honestly say this is my least favorite Judas Priest album. but there are still a few tracks that I really enjoy, and that is One on One is a great track, Hell is Home, and kind of a, I guess you call it a deep track, Cyberfuge. That's a cool track, but definitely a different sound for Priest. Yeah, even live back in the day, they obviously sounded different with Tim, but and this is nothing against Ripper Owens. He's doing a fantastic job now with KK's Priest, but only one clear-cut winner there, Brave New World. Next up, we have 2003's Dance of Death versus 2005's reunion album with Rob Halford, Angel of Retribution. So if you go head-to-head on these two, this one for me, I would say it's not as close as you think. Well, or could it be closer than you think? But I'm going to have to go with Dance of Death. And those of you that watch my channel know that Judas Priest is my favorite band, but Iron Maiden's up there too. But Dance of Death is a very unique album. There is tracks on here that I just love. Rainmaker, No More Lies, Passchendaele, you know. And yes, you're getting into these really long songs, things like that. But over the years, I've kind of accepted the fact that, you know, Iron Maiden's going to do what they want to do. And and over the years, lots of these albums have grown on me. And we'll talk about that more in the future. But overall, I got to go with Dance of Death. I just think it's the better album of these two. There is some awesome tracks on Angel of Retribution. Yes, great to have Rob Halford back. This one, production-wise, they used Roy Z, so it's not my favorite production for sure. There is some not so good songs on here, like Demonizer is okay, Loch Ness, not a great track, but it really kicks off with a heck of a song. Judas Rising, Deal with the Devil isn't bad. There's kind of a ballady song, Worth Fighting For. Not quite ballad, because Angel's really the ballad on here, but another track I really enjoy too is Hell Rider. But I would have to, you know what, if I got to pick one, I'm going to go Dance of Death. So we got 2 for Iron Maiden so far, and now we get into 2006's A Matter of Life and Death and 2008's Nostradamus. Now, I would say for sure you got to go with this one. Me personally, you know, I know Nostradamus gets its share of shit. But I'll tell you what, this is an album that I went back to now over the past month or two, you know, leading up to Invincible Shield. And now that Invincible Shield is out, I really have I'm not going to say newfound, but I really do enjoy this album. It is got, 23 tracks, but there's really only 13 actual tracks on here. But for a little bit of homework, if you want to go back to this and check it out, try these tracks, Revelations, and 2 of my absolute favorites here would be Alone, and my favorite track on here, if you only check out one, is called Visions. It is a fantastic song. The soloing in here is actually remarkable. If you just really close your eyes, kick back, listen to this whole thing, and the title track, Nostradamus, awesome. Go back and check this one out if you haven't for a while. But if you're putting these two head to head, this is one of probably my second favorite of the reunion with Bruce and Adrian, A Matter of Life and Death. More, a little bit scaled back on the production. They pretty much did all these songs live in the studio atmosphere where they're all playing together, and probably just added in or touched up the vocals later. But yeah, there's some great songs on here. The Longest Day, The Pilgrim, the Reincarnation of Benjamin Brieg. So here we are 3-0 for Iron Maiden so far on these 6 releases. Coming up to 2010's The Final Frontier versus 2014's Redeemer of Souls. So KK Downing is gone. We have Richie Faulkner on his first album. Now this one, I said before that, which one? Dance of Death versus Angel of Retribution was not as close as you think. This one, probably closer than you think. But I am going to go with Redeemer of Souls. That is the winner for me. Even though I think, one second. Love the artwork, by the way. And yeah, another Mark Wilkinson album cover. The production on here is a little strange, to be honest with you. It's got a bit of a hollow sound. I don't, yeah, the production for really kind of hampers this one a bit. There is some predictable Judas Priest stuff on here, but overall it's a good album, and I gotta say it's better than The Final Frontier. The Final Frontier is probably one that I don't go back to that much as far as Iron Maiden go. There is some really killer tracks on that one too. My favorite being, oddly enough, is When the Wild Wind Blows. My son loves that song, so there's kind of a special meaning type of that one with that one for me. So great track, but this one, we'll go with this one for sure. Some great tracks: Dragonaut, Redeemer of Souls, Halls of Valhalla, March of the Damned, as you know, as raw metal as that is, and as cheesy as it is, I don't care. I think it's a great track. But yeah, these two head to head, we're gonna go with Redeemer of Souls. So far we're at 3 for Iron Maiden and 1 for Judas Priest, leading us into, when did this one? 2015's The Book of Souls versus 2018's Firepower. Here's like Brave New World versus Demolition. This one, no contest whatsoever. Firepower takes this one, maybe not on the same level as Brave New World versus Demolition, because Demolition is not great, but definitely Firepower. This was my album of the year for 2018, and this is one that people do, as far as Iron Maiden go, this is one that is lower down on the ladder, and but again, it's got some great tracks, but you're into a lot of those really long songs, things like that. But there, like I said, there is some really great tracks on here. We got Speed of Light, The Red and the Black, Tears of a Clown. That's a pretty cool track actually too. But then you got stuff like Empire of the Clouds that just bogs the end of this album down. But Firepower for sure. If you're a Priest and a Maiden fan, you might be going with this one too. This was a real step up from Redeemer of Souls. In my opinion, I just think much more polished. I shouldn't say polished, way better production. They hooked up with Andy Sneap. They got back together with Tom Allom. Fantastic album cover, so many killer tracks. And Richie Faulkner just coming into his own on that album. So definitely, we're going with Firepower. So we got 3 Maiden, 2 Priests, and that brings us into the latest 2 albums. This is 2019's Senjutsu, and another Mark Wilkinson album cover. Now this one, personally, it does get shit on. I've heard things like, these albums put me to sleep, they suck, they're shit. This one's actually growing on me. I enjoy this album a lot, but I do not enjoy it as much as I've enjoyed this over the past few weeks. This is an incredible album, and like I touched on earlier in the video, highest charting since British Steel in 1980, and I believe that's in the UK. I don't know if that's all the way around the world, but for a band like Priest, who's been active, in the recording end of it for 50 years, this is just incredible. I love it, and I love it more as I go. And you might not, that's okay, but this versus this, it's clear-cut winner is Invincible Shield. Yeah, there's probably not a day that I haven't spun this album from. And the 11 regular tracks on here, top notch. Love this album cover. I know that gets its share of shit too, but I think it's awesome. So here we are. We got 3 against 3, and what we're going to do, we'll just do one more round, kind of see it doesn't matter who's winning this battle. It really doesn't. But let's kind of see who is maybe leading the way. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go right back to the start, and we're going to go in chronological order again. And we're going to put up Brave New World against Redeemer of Souls. To me, no contest here whatsoever. Brave New World. Yeah, and the excitement of Bruce and Adrian coming back in the year 2000. And this is still my favorite of the modern era of Iron Maiden. And there we go. Brave New World. Then we got Dance of Death versus Firepower. And to me, this one's no contest. Firepower straight up wins it. And here's the last two. So we got Invincible Shield versus A Matter of Life and Death. As much as I love A Matter of Life and Death being my second favorite of the new or the modern era of Iron Maiden, I gotta say Invincible Shield. And part of the inspiration of this video was this album. I was just, the quality of it, yeah, just a great album. And it's going to take something remarkable to knock this off for album of the year for me. I mean, it literally will have to be something special, maybe a surprise album that I wasn't aware of, something like that. But let me know in the comments, where do you stand on the 2000s till today, 2024, with these two bands. Again, I'm not shitting on either band, just pointing out some observations and things of their each 6 studio albums, which once I wrote that down or thought about it, I was like, that is not a lot of output. But long gone are the days where there was an album like even Iron Maiden, 1980, 81, 82, 83, 84, 86, 88. There's album after album after album. But bands that, obviously they're older, things have slowed down, and bands like this really aren't in any rush to put out new albums. But with that said, time really isn't on their side. But I can see, honestly, I hope Judas Priest can get to the 20 studio album mark. One more would just top off a remarkable career and sure make me happy. Iron Maiden wise, I think they'll squeeze out their 18th studio album. You know what? Maybe both of these bands kind of call it quits at the same time, things like that, or slow down to just 1 or 2 shows a year type of thing. But it's always fun to look at 2 of my favorite bands. And like I said before, let me know in the comments what's your favorite of these. Was any surprises here? You know what? And little bit of homework, go back and check out Nostradamus. It's really good. Dance of Death, maybe that's one that you didn't really enjoy when you first heard it, but I played that one just the other day again, and man, I loved it. It was really enjoyable. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Until next time, stay heavy.